All right, women's basketball fans, we are back with another episode of Gotta Get Up, a podcast for New York Liberty fans, brought to you by Black Rosie Media. Of course, we're going to talk NBA All-Star and awful announcing. That's also a Twitter handle, but that's probably not what
Love
we
that
talk about.
Twitter handle.
We're going to talk about awful announcing. We are going to talk about the goings-on in free agency, and it's finally here. What better time than right off the heels of the NBA All-Star Weekend than to do the Sabrina Ionescu episode? That and more coming up on today's episode of Gotta Get Up. Gotta get up. Gotta get up. Gotta get up. Hey, women's basketball fans, welcome to Gotta Get Up, a podcast for New York Liberty fans, brought to you by Black Rosie Media and hosted by Erica L. Ayala. All right, folks. Happy Monday. It's a holiday for some folks, but not us non-9-to-5ers. You know, we out here still hustling. I'm with the one and only Misha Jones. They are here to give us insight and, of course, not to make it all about Washington Mystics basketball, which ironically, I feel like literally even outside of the bit, we always have something to discuss that deals with Washington.
Always. We love being the center of attention. You know what I mean? Capital of the continental United States. Why not?
Why not? Capital of the continental US, capital of this women's basketball podcast.
But it's always, I want you and our audience to realize, it's always y'all. It is always y'all bringing them into, like, since the first time I did it, I don't think it's been me one time. So I just want to state that for the record. But anyway.
It's hilarious. And since we're talking about the Mystics, big news. And we talked about this really our last handful of live shows, Misha, but and when Brian, he should be joining us a little bit later, but when we had Brian on as well, we were talking about, okay, at the time, you know, the NECA deal hadn't been, I don't think, official yet. They just had their press conference today. We'll get into that a little bit in Seattle. But what could the offseason overall mean for Stef Dolson? And the homie Kareem Copeland at the Washington Post reporting that Stef Dolson is heading to the Washington Mystics, and it's a reunion, Misha.
Yeah, it is a reunion. She started off here in DC. For folks who are not aware, her first rookie season was spent with the Washington Mystics, and you know, it's a move that I'm not surprised by, quite frankly, because of that familiarity. You know what I mean? It's still the Tebows running things in this city, so I assume they've kept a relationship through the years, and I actually really don't mind this. If folks were watching the last episode, I didn't go in on Stef Dolson, but I questioned her fit with the New York Liberty. But I like the move of her coming to DC because the role that she would have played for the Liberty, I don't think they need. In DC, they need that right now. They need a vet. They need somebody who can give you consistent minutes, consistent effort, energy in the post position, and kind of weather the storm when Shakira Austin is, in foul trouble or in tandem with her and anybody else that they might be trying to pick up. But I like this move overall. I think, this is a pretty decent move.
I mean, of course, New York Liberty fans, even before this season, when Maureen Johannes talked about basically it's not looking good for her in the WNBA period in 2024, just because of how Team France is going to do things ahead of the Paris Olympics that they are hosting, mind you. A lot of people were like, oh no, Steph and Maureen not going to be together. Well, it looks like that might be more permanent. But we have Brian Florentin joining the fold here. Brian, what up?
Hello. How are you guys?
Doing fantastic. Now the whole crew is here. But Brian, we were just talking about the news that Stef Dolson reportedly headed to the Washington Mystics. Your thoughts?
Yeah, I think when I think about Stef's decision to go to Washington, I feel like there, like Misha was saying, there's going to be a lot of playing time for her there. Like Washington in transition, no Deladon. We'll see how the rest of the roster looks, but that's going to be a great opportunity for her to really get get real playing time. She didn't get that much last year coming off the bench and then being out for a month and a half with the ankle sprain. So this is going to be a great opportunity for her to really sort of like reestablish herself as one of the better bigs in the league. And I think her ability to pass, her ability to sort of like stretch the floor out and make 3-pointers will sort of like allow Shakira Austin to almost like take on new kind of roles and sort of like see where her game can take her. Because even last year before the injury, she was playing really well. And now that you have a big like Steph who can do who can do some things and allow her to take on new challenges and new opportunities, I think we'll really get to sort of see her game sort of flourish and blossom in that regard. And without having Deladon and Cloud on the team, there might be more shot opportunities for Shakira. So it's going to be exciting to see how she looks, and having a big who can pass in the ways that Steph does, I think really will allow for Eric Tebow and the folks there to sort of like experiment, try some new things out, and see what they can unlock. And I think, and just one last thought, it's a low pressure environment for Washington, so I think it's definitely going to be an avenue where you can really sort of experiment, try some new things, and see what the future may look like in 2025 and beyond.
For sure. So we'll see how that Washington roster is coming together. We talked about this last live stream, Brian, but the news is now officially official. Jonquel Jones coming back to New York.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And I was doing some reading about it over the weekend, and I love the quote that she gave you about how last year it was just, we want to get settled. Now I know what it's like. I know what to do. I know what to bring New York, and really sort of build on that. And I think, in thinking about JJ, I'm thinking about Steph at the same time, because last year, as JJ was healing up and getting back to full strength, you needed a player like Steph to be there and really take on that role, because she was familiar with Sandy's system, familiar with Stewie from UConn, familiar with Stewie from Chicago. So you needed that backup big who could sort of fit that role as JJ sort of got herself up to speed. And now that JJ is back 100%, no more limitations into camp at full strength, I think this is a season where they can sort of tap the JJ button a little bit more as compared to last year, because we saw how amazing she was in the postseason. And now that you have JJ back at full power for an entire season, and I don't believe JJ has international obligations with the Paris Olympics. So as compared to like a Stewie, Laney, Ionescu, maybe Sabali off the bench, Five-Itch off the bench. So there's going to be more opportunities for Sandy to be like, okay, JJ, we're climbing on your shoulders tonight. Make it happen. And JJ is capable of doing that. And I think, you have an all WNBA caliber big who can do everything on the court. It makes a player like Steph a little bit sort of like expendable to a certain degree, because if you know that you have JJ for like 32 minutes a night, it's okay, I got that 20, I got 18 and 10 every night at the center position. So I don't really have to, I can sort of use my resources in other areas. So I think having a fully healthy JJ allows the team to sort of like focus in other areas, work on other parts of the roster, because between JJ and Stewie, you're going to have 40 minutes of all WNBA caliber front court play every single night, no matter what. So I think that part is really valuable for New York, and having her here, having her comfortable in this city, in this environment, in this market, really sort of like makes everything else flow off of that easily.
And so, Misha, between the news of Jonquel Jones, the coring of Breanna Stewart, which we'll talk about in a minute, we have kind of been talking about this for a few weeks, a few episodes, a few streams now, that the writing appeared to be on the wall, not only for Stef Dolson, but I know I certainly was hoping that the New York Liberty would be able to hold on to Jocelyn Willoughby, although I did think she was kind of a bubble player to make this roster, especially knowing that they wanted to revamp the bench. And so the news came out that Jocelyn Willoughby signing a training camp contract with the Connecticut Sun.
Yeah, I like this move for her. I like this move for her a lot. She's a player. I've respected her game for a really long time. I don't think I've ever told anybody this, but like back when I was hooping back in the day, okay, when I was playing AAU and stuff, we would play against her teams a lot. And she has always been just the kind of player who she might be the best player in the gym, or there were times we went to Olympic trials and things like that where it was a team full of people who had experience, and then we were able to come in and kind of just learn. It didn't matter. She approaches the game the same way. And with the Sun, I think there's just another opportunity for her to experience the league, the WNBA, because she's one of those sneaky players I see staying in the league for a really long time and making a name for herself, and being an excellent, you know what I mean? One of those excellent under the radar types. Kind of like, some might not agree with this, but Kayla Thornton almost, you know what I mean? I see her kind of in the same vein. And even though she's leaving the Liberty for the Sun, I still think there's an amazing opportunity there for her to be able to learn, step in, have a bigger role, a role that has an opportunity to grow. So yeah, I like this move too. And like you said, the writing kind of was on the wall, because for a team like the Liberty, you need people coming off the bench that, you know, they maybe are done with the learning portion of it and are kind of just ready to go win a championship and have that experience. And kind of like we see Sid Colson on the Aces, or we see, you know, those kind of players. But I still love this for Joss. I think she has such a bright future in this league. And Connecticut got a good one. They got a good one.
Good evening, everyone in the comments, and of course, watching either live with us or on replay. Thank you so much for joining us here for Gotta Get Up, a podcast for New York Liberty fans. As you can see, we are running through. We're starting to break this down, trying to get more organized for y'all. But this is the shoot around. So these are just stories around women's basketball. Then we're going to get into our quarters, including the fourth quarter, where we want to hear from y'all. So as you know, I keep up with the chat, but if we don't get to your question in real time, keep putting them in the chat because we'll get to it in the fourth quarter. All right. So some other stories around women's basketball that actually still do have a tangential sometimes relationship to the New York Liberty. Let's go to Baylor and the Baylor University women's basketball team putting number 42 up in the rafters. No, not for Jackie Robinson, for the one and only Brittany Griner, who also has a book release. I haven't read/listened to Griner's book yet. It's out, right? I think it's out.
I believe so.
Yeah, so I got to get on that too, because I mean, woo, I can't even imagine. Griner told us that her story, as far as everything that she went through with that detainment, was going to come in a book. So definitely got to do that. We might have to do a little Black Rosie Media book club. But all of that to say, congratulations to Brittany Griner. I know we talked about, speaking of the Connecticut Sun, DeWanna Bonner's jersey retirement. We talked last time about Jonquel Jones, not only for her college, but also her high school. So she DMV, she talked about that. So if you are a member of our Patreon posse, we spoke to Jonquel Jones on January 1st, and she confirmed with us and actually told me as I was getting all the equipment ready, she was like, yeah, you're the first person that I'm talking to about coming back to the New York Liberty. And then we get it officially official. But the tangential relationship to the New York Liberty is that Sandy Brondello, the head coach of the New York Liberty, coached Brittany Griner for a number of years in Phoenix. And I mean, I'm going to keep it positive. I'm just glad that one of Brittany Griner's former head coaches showed out for Griner and her family. But Brian, thoughts on Brittany Griner and just the joy overall that she seemed to have over the weekend, heading back to Baylor.
Yeah, like when Team USA had the camp in Brooklyn a few weeks ago, we talked to her about that, and she was really pumped. I think she had found out like the day before that her jersey was going up, so it was like, so we sort of caught her in the afterglow of that moment, which is really nice. And I think just thinking about BG in general, like in the few times I've gotten to talk with her, she's such a wonderful person to talk to. Like she's always like welcoming. It feels like the league is always like the league always tries to make things as inclusive as possible. And I think in talking with BG, you see that in action. Like you always see her making time for her teammates, making time for folks who are there. Even when the Mercury were playing, like she stayed to sign autographs to everybody there. So you really have that sense of community with her and that togetherness, which I think is really valuable and makes everything feel more positive. And I think just on the court, when it comes to having your jersey retired, it's such a special feeling, especially considering how dominant she was at Baylor, just to be like, okay, this is like, I feel like certain schools, it's like, oh, who's the first person on the on the tour guide? Was it, oh, this person went there. For Baylor, BG went there. She dominated. She carried that university to success way beyond their wildest imaginations. So to have that home, and I think especially having a coach that is welcoming of her as compared to the person who was there, and that relationship is as complicated as can be. Having the university be like, okay, it didn't end the way we wanted it to back in 2014 and for that decade going into this. But now that we're building that relationship, we're making things more positive. We want you to be a part of our community because you meant so much to us here, and we want to pay it forward for you in every way imaginable. I feel like that part matters a lot, and I think Baylor sort of like retiring her jersey, having the kids who are on the team really welcome her and really sort of like form that bond with her. I think it's one of those things that it matters just on the basketball part, but on the people side of things, I think it matters even more.
Yeah, for sure. And as you mentioned, Brittney Griner found out in January her statement, "I'm honored to return home to Baylor and celebrate where so much of my journey had started." Of course, Brittney Griner also from Texas. So there's a little bit of a home state feel there. "I'm grateful to Coach Nikki Cullen, used to be an assistant coach and a head coach in the WNBA, and the entire Baylor community, and looking forward to the opportunity to be back on campus." Of course, was just back on campus where her legacy was celebrated, the 2011-2012 Baylor Bears, undefeated, win over Notre Dame in the NCAA championship game. Griner, I mean, just a fantastic player. Also, though, we saw, like, we got to keep it real, that Griner struggled at times and has talked about that since leaving Baylor on a lot of different levels, including at the time Baylor's feeling that under their head coach, who is now at LSU, that they needed to suppress things that actually, Misha, you and I have talked about. That's actually how we linked up, is talking about the suppression and the artificial kind of packaging of women's basketball and skewing away from more masculine presenting players like a Brittney Griner. But Brian, to your point, Brittney Griner definitely, I mean, not someone you want to mess with on the court for sure. That being said, is also someone that when she is confident, when she is comfortable, when she is in a loving and supportive environment, has seemed to be gives that back, tenfold. So congratulations, honestly, to Brittney Griner. Well done, Baylor. I mean, the bomber jacket, they had the years that she was on the Olympic team. It just looked great. Yeah, it was fantastic. And you saw that big Griner smile as she came out, got emotional. And then they even had a dunk contest at halftime where Griner came off the sideline and had to throw it down. So, 3-time All-American, drafted by the Phoenix Mercury, went on to be successful, as we mentioned, under Sandy Brondello there. So congratulations to Brittney Griner. Misha, you want to, final thoughts there?
Bless y'all hearts for not going in on Kim Mulkey, because I don't know the woman. I do not know her. And I cannot claim to know her. But the entire way she has handled the situation with BG, unprofessional, childish, and disrespectful. You should be ashamed of yourself. And all the success you got right now, shameful. It's still shameful.
Yeah.
Because BG did not deserve none of that. None of the players who also were in that situation deserve
none of the smoke. None of the smoke.
None of the smoke. Like, that's, and to your point, I can't wait for us to continue having this conversation about, the way the league has marketed masculine and queer and, insert adjective here players. Because didn't Sue Bird just say something the other day also about kind of that whole,
sure did.
Yeah, on the podcast with Pablo Torre and Rapinoe. Yes. So I can't wait for us to keep having this conversation.
You know what? And you're right. Let's put it in the lineup, because between what Lexi Brown has said and I need to go back to her original comments, because I think, context is important. And anyway, Lexi Brown, Sue Bird. I mean, again, Misha, you and I have had this conversation before. I think it's definitely worthwhile, and it's not a conversation that is going anywhere in women's sports, and certainly not in women's basketball, which, as I'm wearing my Playa Society shirt right now, on the back it says 80% should be celebrated in Black History Month. But that, that's a whole nother. I ain't happy. We need a February redo because people tripping in 2024. But anyway, Aloysius, to answer your question, Kim Mulkey. So the ceremony already happened, and as far as I know, she wasn't there. Am I surprised? No. And listen, I wasn't even gonna bring her name up because you know what? Why? It's been trash on trash. Misha said, I'll do it. But you know what? We want to give the flowers to Brittany Griner. BG's been through a lot. And even again, before the detainment, it's not all rainbows and butterflies. Her story is complex, like all of our stories. And there have been times where she's had to account for things that have been said and certainly that have been done. And I think Brittany Griner has found a way to continue her career and her life with a lot of grace. And I personally want to make sure we're uplifting people who are supportive of that and understanding of that. And to me, that's not the head coach out at LSU. But we can move on here. JC, thank you so much. We're happy you're here. We're going to move on
in the comments.
Listen.
Look, we not ready yet.
Listen. Again, we're going to get into this. This is unfortunately a conversation that's ongoing. And again, we might have to really do this book club because I did get through Asia's book. I have not gotten to BG's book yet, but I'm very curious to hear a little bit more about that. And listen,
this is the one I saw.
I don't know if y'all see these shoes back here. Them's the swoops, I believe the 5s signed by the queen herself. And we are going to get to this in a roundabout way. We do want to spend some time talking about Sabrina Ionescu, and that leads us to the first quarter. I mean, listen, first quarter is entitled, Can We Have Nice Things? Brian, can we have nice things? Now, I feel like we got into it a little bit. We got into it a little bit on our last live. Sabrina Ionescu going up against Steph Curry. Now, let's set the record straight. Now, Sabrina Ionescu, and we'll get into this in the second quarter because we're going to talk about her stats in 2023. But let's just focus on All-Star. The reason that this came to NBA All-Star 2024, Brian, is because of what Sabrina Ionescu did at WNBA All-Star 2023 in the three-point contest. Now, listen, this is a three-point contest that people like myself, yes, hand raised, believe should be named after Allie Quigley because she was crushing it. And the fact that Sabrina then came in and just
unconscious
leveled up what Allie Quigley has done, Brian, like to me, that's wild. What do you remember? What were your thoughts and takeaways about that summer classic 37-point performance by Sabrina Ionescu?
So when it happened, I was in the office at work. So I'm like, oh, it's 4 o'clock. Let me pop one on. I don't want to work anyway. Let me get it somewhere quick. And then the first one is like solid. I'm like, okay, that's good. And then she missed the first one. Then it's okay. That's 3 in a row. That's 5 in a row. Oh, she's up to like 10. It's getting louder. It's getting louder. It's getting louder. It's picking up. It's more heat. It's more heat. And I'm like, oh, this is amazing. And I just thought that. Just like you saw in real time, her confidence continues to sort of grow and grow and grow. And it's like when your confidence grows like that, you feel like you're 10 feet tall. And she very much felt 10 feet tall in that moment. And it's like, okay, that confidence really carries you through. You see it, like you see the belief. The crowd is with you. It's sold out arena. Everything about it felt so special and it felt so magnetic. And I think, to really, and I think having a great announce team who's really like dialed in and giving you that hype and that build really made it.
You bet. Ryan, that's his thing. You bet.
Yes, absolutely. Like Ruko did his job that day, man. Like it was really fantastic. And I think that having just like that atmosphere where everyone was so excited and cheering on. Like you felt that support. It was competitive among all the players, but you still felt
Michi, you heard what he said though. The atmosphere was like exciting. Everyone was locked in, knew what was happening. Had to mute myself right quick there because we try to keep this PG-13. But I just wanted to put a pin in that because we're gonna come to you, Misha, next about what we did and did not see at NBA All-Star. I'm sorry, Brian. Go on with you.
No, it's good. I will say that everyone was like really locked in. Everyone was competitive, but it wasn't anything where it's like beef in a sense. So I think it was like, okay, everyone's here to have a good time. Everyone's working together. We having fun. It's relaxed. Like we're gonna party after. Like it's early enough in the day, so by 8 p.m. Vegas time we could really turn up. So hey, we got the work done. Now it's fun. We could all hang out, chill afterwards. So it felt great in that regard. So last All-Star was like a grand slam in every respect.
It was great. BG was back. We were back in Vegas. Everyone was having a good time. Now the only person I'm gonna come for because Holly Rose set Sabrina up. She set Sabrina up because Sabrina usually I think it's the Friday, Saturday, whatever, the day before All-Star game, she had that performance that Brian just talked about. And then Sabrina played in the All-Star game. And for whatever reason, I do not know why, on live television, Sabrina Ionescu, who had a serviceable performance, Misha, but then Holly Rowe was like, "Where is Sabrina? We need to talk to Sabrina." And the faces in the background, I was like, why you set her up?
I remember that moment because I don't know if it was Erica Wheeler in the front. I think it was Erica Wheeler in the front. But whoever was just in the front, it was a point. Yes, they were like.
And then had to turn around. And then they all were just like.
Ooh, that's one thing I will say about the WNBA players. When some stuff goes down in front of them, none of them. You always know exactly what they're thinking.
I was like, dang.
One of the most awkward moments.
It was awkward. It was so awkward. It was so awkward. But okay. Other than Holly Rowe putting a freaking target on someone who already got a target on her back, and in Vegas now this was pre,
before we knew.
Yes.
Before we knew.
This was pre-Sabrina One's gate, like pre-Commissioner Cup, oh dang. But okay, let's talk about what was and wasn't at WNBA All-Star. Aloysius, I see you. Listen, I was locked in on hockey and All-Star 2. Don't worry, we got you. That's why you lock in with us here at Black Rosie Media, because Misha about to give us a quick run through. Okay, so they had a bunch of things going on. I ain't watch all of them. I ain't had the time. I wasn't looking to do all that. But what we know is there was a 3-point contest with all NBA players, and Steph did not shoot in that. Then there was the Steph versus Sabrina head-to-head. Now, the reason that they had the head-to-head is because to this day, Sabrina holds the record for most points, the best performance overall in a domestic in the United States pro 3-point contest with 37 points. That has not been defeated, even this weekend. So the whole thing was that the two best shooters performance-wise, in a single 3-point contest, Steph Curry in the NBA or the MNBA and Sabrina Ionescu in the WNBA would go head-to-head. And what were your takeaways, Misha Jones?
So first of all, for context, because JC's asking, I heard she shot from the MNBA 3-point line. Let's just run through kind of what the criteria was, right?
Yeah, because if you listen to Draymond and them,
oh my goodness, y'all, I had somebody. It wasn't. We don't have enough time to talk about this right now.
We don't.
Later.
You're right. I just saw red. I saw red, and okay. I'm gonna go on mute. I'm gonna go on mute.
Anyways, child. So essentially Sabrina shot with the WNBA basketball, right? She shot from the MNBA 3-point line. Okay. So there were no other special criteria. Nothing was special. She just shot with the ball she'd been shooting with and shot it from the MNBA line. So my first thought when I heard that, I was a little bit stressed. because she doesn't shoot for like the WNBA's line just isn't the same as the MNBA's line. But that's just a testament to what a great shooter Sabrina Ionescu was. She backed up, and it's not 3 feet. All right, it's more like I heard some crazy stuff on Twitter yesterday about how short the women's WNBA 3-point line was. I didn't know any of that. It's not a 3 feet discrepancy, okay? But the fact that she was up for that challenge, to me, that takes guts. All right. Especially as Erica just said, somebody who's already got a target on her back, because Shorty definitely does. As popular as she is, she has ruffled just as many feathers. So that to me was spectacular. And it was reminiscent of that WNBA All-Star 2023 to me, when she stepped out in the black jersey, same side of the court. You know what I mean? Same kind of swag. But when I knew it was on and popping was when she hit the first starry ball, the first like wait. I was like, oh, I saw her do a little jump after she made it. I said, that's it. She's going for something crazy. And watching that felt like, you know, when you're practicing, you're shooting on what's called the gun, the shooting machine that feeds the ball back to you. That looked like somebody who's just locked in the gym by themselves. Nobody else mattered. The crowd didn't matter. Nobody else around her mattered. Like, and this is her stepping into the NBA All-Star game for the first time doing this. Like, that takes guts. And I'm just so proud of what she was able to do. However, my beef is with the way all of this was displayed. It was displayed as though it was like some Make-A-Wish type situation for the WNBA. Okay, no tea, no shade. I'm sorry if anybody took offense, but I'm just saying that's what it felt like to me. They thought they was doing some charity work by bringing Sabrina in and giving us just a little. There was no WNBA advertising, marketing, commercials, like nothing. And so I'm completely understanding where people are a little bit upset with that. The NBA needed the ratings. Let's be for real. Y'all needed the ratings for the All-Star game because it's been going downhill for the last few, years. Nobody wants to watch it, and everybody's upset about it because they haven't figured out a way to make it exciting and enticing and competitive. But yeah, that's my big beef. They made it seem like it was a favor the NBA was doing for the W. Everything just felt real condescending, and I'm a Leo. I don't do well with that. My ego is a little big. My pride is a little big. So it just rubbed me the wrong way.
Woo! I mean, without going on a rant, I really don't know where else to go with that, except that the commentary was wild. And that's on me. That's on me for believing that
I have good things. For believing you would be handled with care. Like, why would we think that?
Kenny,
we're foolish.
Baby.
Let me go on mute, y'all, because I'm
right. Listen, we need you to be on mute, Kenny. We need you on mute. That was just like, and then it was crazy and like coming at Reggie, and then there were somehow dolls got involved. Like, I'm just like, what are y'all doing? What are y'all doing? Because then the thing was, oh well, she should have shot from the WNBA line. Okay, boo-boo. She said on Twitter, on Elon Musk's Musky platform, that she was going to shoot from the MNBA line. Then she had a WNBA coordinated, I guess, like, they're really both the same. But the WNBA media, we got a press release that Stef and Sab were going to talk. And then she showed up in Indiana, and there was another live press conference, all of which, if you actually listen to what women say, you would have known, Draymond, Kenny, that not only did she already decide that she was going to shoot from the MNBA 3-point range, but she had said it multiple times. What are we talking about? And then it's like, oh, she should have shot from the 3-point range. But it's just like, if she was shot from that range, just imagine. First of all, also, I feel like also underreported, she is out of season. She's not in season. And now she did just play with USA Basketball, and she was knocking down threes there. And we'll get into that in a little bit. But like, as far as the rhythm of a season comparative to when she dropped 37 at the WNBA All-Star, not the same. She's not getting up the same game action shots. This is just not happening. It's not happening. And then, yes, people were bringing in Caitlin Clark. Now, I don't have a problem with that on its face, but like also Caitlin Clark, she's getting the Kelsey Plum, Sabrina Ionescu treatment all up and down as well for no reason. Like y'all bringing her into conversations that she didn't ask to be a part of. Like,
it's like Travis Kelce inventing the fade. They came for my guy. That was crazy. They set him up too. But anyway, yeah.
The fade. We talked about it last
Black
time.
History Month.
Oh my god. Oh my god. Like y'all are so tired. The collective, not y'all, because y'all are cool because you're here with us on Black Rosie Media. Got to get up, a podcast for New York Liberty fans. But the collective, the big y'all are tired. Like it was so exhausting. And then listen, in this house, I personally love Swin Cash. Have since her UConn days. Will always hold Swin Cash down. But when she put out that tweet talking about we need to have more MNBA players at the WNBA All-Star, my heart couldn't take it. And she said, argue with the Lord and not me. So I put a little prayer out to the universe, aka social media. And I said, dear Lord, now while that does sound logical, it is not well with my soul. It is not well with my soul because I'm gonna need that. There needs to be a vetting process.
Yes.
Because
clearly because of recent events.
Like, and here's the thing, like, I'm not even beefing with the majority of NBA players because they do come correct because they understand basketball and they're not out here trying to be salacious for no freaking reason against the WNBA. Unless your name is Draymond Green, but he got other problems that
or Gilbert Arenas. But pause. Let me not do that.
But you know what I'm saying? Like nobody's out here doing that. Like there are dudes that were actively wearing Sabrinas. Like what are we talking about? But I'm like, listen, just make sure that whoever we got on the mic, whoever's coming through, understands that they are a guest in women's basketball's house. Sabrina wasn't acting crazy. Asia, Jewel Lloyd was there. Natasha Cloud was there. Arike Agumbawale was there. Wasn't nobody acting out of character. And I don't want these MNBA players to come to our summer classic acting a fool.
Yeah.
That's it.
That's it.
Oh my goodness. And then we're gonna really move on because we're gonna talk about Sabrina. We're gonna really move on. But like people were like, well, if you complaining, I mean, now you saying that there should be women on the broadcast. Yes, when you have a whole Candace Parker on the TNT broadcast, yeah, I'm gonna need that. I'm gonna need that
opportunity.
I'm gonna need that opportunity. Like she knows Sabrina Ionescu's game. Hello. She plays for the Aces. Sis got scout on her. Come on, what are we talking about? And y'all sidelined her for what?
I don't know who made that schedule.
That made zero sense. And then people talking about, well, if you want more women on the NBA All-Star, then I mean, what about having men on the
You get worked up in real time. We feel your pain. It's so bad. Men, just step aside. Take a back seat. Listen. Open your ears, not your mouth. Okay? Please.
LA. Ryan Rucco. Who else? I'm pretty sure, well, not Atlanta anymore. The point is, do like the most regular basic research and understand fully that yes, men do call WNBA games. They do call college basketball games. We're not
a lot of them actually.
It's not even, that's not what we're asking for. I don't care. It could be all men on there for all I care. But like the fact that you had the most ignorant of ignorant. And it was just like, and it wasn't even because I like watched like a slither of the dunk contest. I didn't realize that people tuned in to the MNBA All-Star to hear a bunch of washed players talk about themselves. I didn't realize.
She's heating up.
And then like people were clowning. Also, like the broadcast, someone was like, if we're gonna have a slam dunk contest, shouldn't like the most basic criteria be to actually show the dunks? Like they're showing them walking around, they're showing them plotting and scheming their dunk, and then we're looking at like the LED floor when the dude actually puts the ball up, and I'm just like, fam, what is happening? But despite that show, ratings are up. And specifically, thank you to those who were specific. I believe it was The Athletic. Now, some folks at The Athletic, they pew pew catching them pew pew strays, but we probably not gonna get to that on today's episode. But The Athletic did put out a tweet where they not only said that the viewership was up for the NBA All-Star, but they showed that the bump came, drum roll please, when Sab and Steph were competing. So will we see something? Again, if you listen to what Sabrina herself said, she said that her and Steph already have talked about how they can improve and make the contest more competitive. To me, that sounds like there will be a second annual. And she's open to, and I love that she said this, anybody in the WNBA who can help her win and get the belt that Steph has. Now, we do not know if Caitlin Clark will even be in the WNBA next year. But if she is, of course, a lot of people will want to see Caitlin Clark. I'm not against that. I just want to make sure that people set the record straight. It was an absolute crap show. Nobody did any vetting. There were no notes that were read, even if they were prepared at all. And it was a mess. So let's do better next time. And also, like, miss me with this idea that Sabrina Ionescu, like, what was the phrase? Did I put it in the notes? What was the phrase? People were like, the anything is possible. Okay, fam. That's
what I said. What I said. We talk about
fam. Was it cool? Yes. Did Sabrina and Steph, for that matter, really give a lot of thought to all the crap they would have to deal with? Yes. Nobody else did, but them two seem to be on the same page at least. So thank you for that. But to put it out here like, this was, moving women ahead 50 years, like Billie Jean King versus, what was that man's name? Bobby Riggs. Yeah. No. It wasn't the same. Come on, fam. Let's not sensationalize this. I don't know. That was just a little wild to me. I was like, y'all are reaching too much. Like, she shot the ball, but we already knew she could shoot the ball. Mm-hmm. So what are we doing? Anyway, I would love to see it again. I would love to have different people on the mic. But Brian, let's get into Sabrina and what she did in the regular season, including we know about the All-Star contest. We talked about that. You broke that down. But she also hit a WNBA and I believe New York Liberty record for three-pointers made in the regular season. So she's not new. She's true to distance shooting.
Mm-hmm. Like, I was doing research about it over the weekend, and I remember Sandy talks a lot about how she takes those shots from that range anyway. So she's like, oh, yeah, Sabrina does that. She takes it from what I call NBA range. So that part has always been a key part of her game, and just sort of like building on that even more. She really sort of like came off. She was more off the ball this year than in 21 and 22. So you really saw the 3-point volume just like spike and skyrocket in a unique way. And having someone who can shoot from like 30 plus feet really allows for more room for like JJ and Stewie on the interior. When Lainey, when she posts up, MJ, when she was in the court, she could just get by people pretty easily because there's no help coming in because you got to stay attached to the sharpshooter in the corner. So just that ability to sort of really open the game up in that regard is so valuable for this Liberty team. And I think
that's what a Courtney Vandersloot signing will get you. But okay.
Yeah. There we go. Have her off the ball. You can never leave her alone. And you always have to like keep an eye on her. Because I think, as far like I'm just thinking back now that we're talking to game 2 against Washington, She didn't shoot well, but Cloud was stuck to her like glue anyway. So I said, oh, your very best defender is stuck on someone who's playing a decoy role right now. Okay, that's great. I could just give the ball to Jonquel Jones and let her wear you out on the interior. Oh, what are they gonna do? Nothing. Oh, JJ's got it going. There's Brianna Stewart right there running all over the court. Do I have someone for her? Nah, because my best defender is attached to Sabrina's hip over there. So just having her ability to really be on the court and moving around the way she does really just it creates like an impossible scenario for opponents to solve. Whereas, oh, I'm gonna put a little bit extra attention on her, but then you got these other people who are all WNBA caliber players who are going off. What do you do? So I think it's a matter of really being able to like use her in a ways that really allows her skills to sort of like multiply and sort of like get maximized with the system and the teammates around her. And I think also, I would say it also speaks to a little bit of a humility, I would say, because, you know, when you come in, you're number one pick, oh, the ball's in my hand. Like year one, before she got hurt, the ball was in her hand a ton. Year two was injured, the ball was still in her hand. Year three started coming off the ball a little bit with Sandy when they brought Crystal Dangerfield in and she started playing more of the two-guard role. So she was able to really expand in that way. This year, we saw that even more with Sloot here, her being more comfortable being off the ball, being willing to be like, okay, I can take a step back because I have all these other players here who can carry the offense, so I don't have to do everything in that regard. So I think that's a real sort of like a real selflessness in that regard, and especially for like a young guard, and guards have the ball in their hands a ton. Being able to be like, okay, I know that I got to get off the ball because there are better options here and I can make an impact in other ways. I think that speaks to like a level of teamwork that can sometimes be sort of like underappreciated to a certain degree. So being willing to do that and being like, okay, there's someone better than me on the squad, get it to them and get out the way. That part matters a lot. And I think that made like, I know Erica talked about like having some like cook on the fly with this team last year and like having to make like an instant meal. I think that a willingness to be like, okay, I'm gonna get out the kitchen and let Stewie cook, let JJ cook, let B get it going. That part matters a lot. And I think that'll really sort of carry into 2024 as they sort of juggle with, you know, new bench, chaotic Olympic season. I think that sort of like muscle memory of the teamwork in 2023 is going to matter a lot and really sort of come into even more effect this year.
Yeah, for sure. And Damian in particular, but everybody, I hope you heard Ryan say new bench. I see your comments, and the fourth quarter is when we're going to get into your comment regarding the Liberty and the bench and this word stagnant. Very interesting for me, Misha. But let's keep it cooking with Sabrina Ionescu. Had really stellar performances in the regular season, to Brian's point, and was able to kind of double dutch in and out of whatever role was needed. And then things didn't quite. She was one of those players where the Jerry curl wasn't quite curling in the postseason. Now, Brian, you and I were at those exit interviews, and we know she talked about that injury that she sustained in the Connecticut series. But Misha, you know, injury or nah, what for you was a little bit a blip under what the New York Liberty probably need from Sabrina Ionescu if they want to make another run to the WNBA finals?
The first thing is the defense. It is, we're at a point now where there can be no more excuses for her. There can't. I mean, last season, she was jumping in and out of great defensive performances too, okay? She had a couple nights where, you know, in possessions where you saw the potential of what she could do as a defender, right? And then there were other possessions where you're just like, child, we can't have you out there. And so next season, I think for her, she doesn't have to be Brittany Sykes. You know what I mean? That's not what anybody's asking for, but she needs to be able to, if she's matched up with a Natasha Cloud on both ends, like, the Liberty are going to need you to be able to stay in front, you know, at the very least, stay in front until JJ can get there, until Stewie can get there, wherever the case may be. So for me, the defense is the first thing. The second thing, I think we've talked about it. People underestimate her strength. And so when she's attacking the basket, sometimes it looks like she's moving in slow motion, but she's doing a lot of work as far as leverage, as far as, you know, putting her weight on the person defending her.
Yep.
But I still need her to be more dynamic. Like, I think there's even as great a passer, as great a playmaker as she is right now for her teammates, I think she can be that much better if she works on the dribble moves, the one-on-one, attacks. She was wild for that. She was wild for that. Threw me completely off guard. I was like,
I did. It wasn't quite. No, come on.
Quite curling. But those are things that can be tweaked in the off season. You know what I mean? Those are things that you get your speed ladder out. You work on a Vertimax. You get your explosiveness going. But I think I have confidence. You know what I mean? I'm starting to kind of come around to your idea of her taking on the keys to the city, the keys to the vehicle here. But if that's going to be the case, she's got to step it up in those two areas for me.
I love that you mentioned defense. Y'all know how I feel about defense. I also think, yes, going back to, she's got a very strong lower body and she does maneuver well. And what I would add to what you said is that sometimes she, with her upper body, flails a little bit to try and get those calls. I mean,
a little bit. We ain't gotta lie. You can say it. She do her best LeBron impersonation.
Not LeBron. No.
The king of the flop.
No.
The king of the flop.
Oh, no. Yeah, it's too much. And I think she needs to, who I actually think does a really good job and happens to be on the New York Liberty roster is Courtney Vandersloot. I think Courtney Vandersloot, in my opinion, doesn't carry as much strength, especially lower body, as Sabrina, but she maneuvers very well. She is able to literally slice through lanes. And she does so in a way, and I think this is, again, why you have a veteran. She does so where she's not, I mean, I was the kind of player, I didn't care who was out there. I don't care how big you are, how small you are. I'm going to use this body and I'm going to do what I got to do. And if you get run over, if I get run over, that's just what's going to happen. That's not how Sloot plays. I say it all the time. She's slippery. She just knows how to maneuver in a way where she can get through and penetrate for her team. Now, with Courtney Vandersloot, we talked about this a lot in the regular season. At times, I think she lost a little bit of that edge and wasn't looking for those opportunities to penetrate for her own shot. And you have to, the only way that you can penetrate and dish effectively is if the other team thinks that you might actually drive to the hoop and take the shot. And the balance was a little bit off for Courtney Vandersloot for me at times last season. But I would like to see Sabrina Ionescu do a little bit more of that, find her version of that. Because I think, to all of the points that you just said, Misha, it's going to only improve her game. And that's what the New York Liberty need at times. So yeah, Sabrina Ionescu, I think overall of a strong performance. And again, she made the most 3-pointers in the season. She had in the regular season 128, past Diana Taurasi, who also never played defense, with 121. That was set in 2006. Y'all already know I was gonna get in these jokes about DT because I say it all the time. I don't care. That child don't play defense and is still in the GOAT conversation. Now, whether you think she deserves to be there or not, offensively, she's got to be in the conversation for my money, but she's not my GOAT because she don't play defense. Like, I'm just putting it out there. She can't be my GOAT because she don't play no defense. And if she does play defense, it's reckless. It's hella reckless. She's like, car crash, bam! Like everybody is losing their life in this collision. Like, it's wild. It's absolutely wild.
That's an accurate description, though.
Like, it is so
That's
wild.
why I'm upset, because
it's so wild.
Wow.
Like,
no survivors.
I've been saying this for years. I'm telling you, the film don't lie. I mean, I'm calling a spade a spade.
Honestly, offensively, it's the same thing. Like, when she's I'm just saying, like, when she's attacking the basket, please, it's you or me or both.
I mean, I just said, I understand that. I understand that, DT. I understand. Is it shade? Is it shade?
She's still a goat. Look, to me, she's still a goat. She just
shade.
We're being real. She knows she don't play defense. I bet you if we asked her.
I'm gonna ask her. I'm straight up gonna ask her. You know what? Fuck it. I mean, I didn't mean
it's not for everybody, okay? I didn't love defense either. It's not for everybody.
It was for me. I'm gonna straight up ask her. All right, bet. Let DT roll through. Okay, I'm gonna ask her straight up. Because I asked her about her attitude once, and we had a good conversation. You know, you got to frame it in a way where, you know, she ain't gonna come for me like, wow. I'm gonna keep the cameras on just in case, though. So if y'all see me on here with a busted lip, you know, DT said meet me in the lobby.
I hope not. Lord, no.
I wish she would. Come on, let's go. I'm from New York. Don't punk me. I'm gonna get a shot in, and then I might have to, you know. Come on, let's go. Oh gosh. Okay. So another thing about Sabrina, we know that she put up a pretty solid performance in Olympic qualifiers. Now, we talked about this last time. The USA did not need to win the tournament. And I mean, we didn't talk about this last time. I didn't see the alternate view, but Kay Plum might have stepped out. She had a heel out on that line, and Belgium should, rightfully so, probably feeling some kind of way. But the US, they were able to win out. But Brian, were there things that you saw from Sabrina that you'd like to see her do for the New York Liberty? That's the first question. And then the second question I want to send to you, Misha. Does Sabrina Ionescu make the Olympic team? Because this would be her first Olympic team. So Brian, first, what did you see? What stood out from the box score, and what her time with the USA basketball at the Olympic qualifiers?
Well, one thing that I thought was really encouraging for her in the Team USA context was that she was in the crunch time lineup. I think, you know, even though it wasn't Team USA at full capacity, being someone that Cheryl Reeve can trust late in a close game really matters a lot and builds your confidence even more. And I think that for her, she made some big 3-pointers in that fourth quarter. She was on the court towards the end of the game. It was very impressive and very sort of like solid that she was able to sort of take what she did in New York, be that floor spacer, be someone who can get those threes in transition. If you need a big basket, you can put it in her hands and trust her to make it happen. So that part I thought was really impressive. And I think as far as taking what she did in Team USA and building on it, I think it's just more establishing that foundation of what she's doing. I feel like for Sabrina, it's a lot of just, okay, build, successful here, build, successful here, build. Just keep building and building and building and building and building. I think by doing that, it makes things so much more easy for her because it shows that you can just keep establishing that solid foundation. Like she's already an all WNBA caliber player already. Now is, can you take that? Can you add something else? Can you keep that solid foundation and just add on more to it instead of like having to sort of like start from scratch in the ways that she did in 2022 following the 2 years of injuries. So now it's just a matter of continuing to establish that foundation even more.
Yeah, I agree with you. I liked what I saw. I think she fit into a team. And also LOL to like the WNBA Twitter that be like just vilifying Sabrina Ionescu and praising Kelsey Plum like they wasn't doing the same thing to her rookie year. Like, ooh, child. Oh, I don't get into it on the social meets, but this is my platform. I'm gonna say what I gotta say. So some people be forgetting that until that series against Connecticut, really, or I guess Washington first and then Connecticut, nobody was messing with Kelsey Plum. And what was the parallel path? Well, obviously both played for the Pac-12. Both were prolific scorers and had a lot of hype coming from their college careers respectively into the WNBA. Number one picks, boom. And then both go down with an ankle injury that drastically impacted their rookie year and then beyond. Kelsey Plum has talked about this a lot, how she had to get her confidence back, and y'all were lambasting sis. But I love that y'all love her now, because I've been with Plum Dog for a minute, and now she's feeling like a more healed, a more anchored and healthy version of herself. I'm with it. So listen, I don't know if Sabrina's ever gonna get there. I listen, early returns are telling me no, to be honest. And I don't know what that means for Caitlin Clark. I did see who is it? Oh, she's talking about them charter flights. I doubt it. Going for 5 years, Caitlin Clark throwing it out there. She's not trying to give up them charter flights. You know what? Honestly, that's
It's
real.
a lifestyle change, man, because folks don't get. I never even played Power. Like Power 5 is even more different, because most teams, mid-major teams, high mid-major teams, they play a non-conference and then they play a conference schedule, and you're going, kind of what to expect from that. With teams like Iowa, UConn, South Carolina, they play their conference schedule, but they're also everywhere and anywhere else that they can get to in between. And that's
then
tough.
These conferences are not even regional. They make absolutely no sense. And it's only going to get worse from here. So I don't know. I personally think that Clark is going to come to the W. I hear what you're saying about charter flights. And you know what? That is an excellent point. That being said, I don't know, even if Iowa doesn't get even to the championship game, I don't know what else Caitlin Clark has to prove. Now, that being said, she has every right to, especially because she came in and still has that extra year, COVID year, because she never redshirted or anything like that. But she's that last true, because she's a true senior. Listen, I love me some Cheryl Swoops. Misspeak happens to me all the time. Y'all acting a fool also happens all the time. But like, I'm gonna need y'all to pump the brakes coming for Cheryl Swoops. She said what she said, and she's absolutely right. A la what I just said about Kelsey Plum, what I just said about Sabrina Ionescu. It was not easy. Aaliyah Boston, yes, was Rookie of the Year. Asia Wilson, yes, Rookie of the Year. But it takes time to establish yourself at the next level. Not everyone's going to be Rookie of the Year and MVP in the same season like Candace Nicole Parker. It's just not going to happen. Ain't ever happened since. So y'all need to just chill out with that. But anyway, the question I had for you, Misha, is, does Sabrina make this roster? And we've talked about it a few times, but who is absent from this roster who we think can maybe bump some other people off? Because we didn't have Asia. I mean, that's a glaring omission, and I don't see how you don't bring Asia Wilson. So what are your thoughts about what we see for USAB? And then we'll talk about the 12-team roster that is going to Paris.
Yeah, I think the Olympic team is always tough, right? Because we're talking about the best of the best of the best, like the cream of the cream of the crop. You know what I'm saying? And Sabrina, to me, we've talked about kind of
the creme de la creme. Oh!
I walked you right into that one. I threw the oop. I did. Boom. I'll give it to you. Goodness. But as you've mentioned a lot, Erica, and I love your confidence in Sabrina, like we just talked about, in her ability to take the keys and kind of reign over the New York Liberty. She is still in that limbo space where we're just not sure yet, though. We're still, seeing the greatness continue to emerge from her, right? But we're not quite sure if she can do it at that level consistently just yet. When we have a Jewel Lloyd who we've seen can do it consistently, when we have a KP, when we have, I'm hesitant to throw Jackie in there, but after the season she just had, man, I feel like I have to throw her in there too, because she had a crazy year.
She's a silent assassin. Jackie, she's another one too who is misunderstood. And people were talking about Jackie Young as a bust. I'm like, ooh, that's bold. That's bold, Cotton. That is a bold statement, Cotton. Okay.
Yeah. So I think, I put Jackie kind of in that echelon of guards that have proven that they can be consistent among the best of the best. But the folks that I still got question marks around include Sabrina, include, I think, even Kalia Copper, include, I hate to say it because she's my Mystics fave, but Ariel Atkins too, I kind of throw in there. Like, they all have different skill sets. But for Sab, the question is, Team USA, to me, the foundation is on defense. Like, everybody on that starting five has a You know what I mean? Their floor in terms of defense is up here, and Sabrina's ceiling is like right here. You know what I'm saying? So that's a reason why I'm kind of iffy on her. And then, like you said, the names that we haven't even talked about in relation to the USA roster just yet. You mentioned Brittany Griner. I wonder, and I could be way off with this, but Skylar, right? Skylar Diggins Smith. Like, I watched that press conference with her in Seattle. She sounded like she coming to get all of it. I don't know if she would be all her things. Okay, my Leo sister, all her things. I told y'all about that.
And you
Leo
can watch that
revenge.
on Black Rosie Media YouTube. It's up now, and if you're not subscribed, do so. We're almost at 1,000 subs. Let's go. But you can watch with NECA, and very interesting press conference. This is not a podcast for Seattle Storm fans, but we might have to come back to that. But I'm with you. I mean, so we got Stewie, we've got Asia. I feel that are locks. I know a lot of
people are positionally her direct competitors. You only have so many spots on a roster.
12.
You only have so many spots on a roster, and it might not even come down to you're not good enough to be on Team USA. It's just where are we gonna put you? We gonna put you in the bags and throw you in the back of the truck? Like, we can't do that. We only got so many tickets. But that's where I'm at with her. She's kind of in the middle, in the murky water.
In my opinion, Sabrina Ionescu is holding herself back from pursuing greatness. Now, that's an interesting comment.
What do you mean by that?
I would love to know, Damien. You might have to type that, and we're gonna get into that on the next episode, because I don't. If you are saying and typing what I think you're saying and typing, I might not disagree with you. That being said, I think it goes back to what Misha you just said, that it's a thin margin of error for Sabrina Ionescu for so many factors that are not even her game specific, whether we're talking the Olympic team or whether we're talking the New York Liberty now, because we're a super team. So that's a lot. And I do, going historically and knowing her character and how she approaches the game, I still do have confidence, like you were saying, that she can reach that. I just wonder what's going to be the catalyst for her grabbing it. She's got to go grab it. And that's where I'm curious what Damien is thinking, because has she grabbed it? Has she seized it? Has she claimed it and be like, no, this is mine? No, I don't think so. And that's real. It's not a bad thing per se. It's just how it is right now. And it goes back to what we said about Jackie, not so much Asia, but definitely K Plum, and a lot of other players. Jonquel Jones, we've talked about that. I mean, her thing was like, she's got to know how to curb the emotions. And I think we did see that in this New York Liberty season. Okay, we're going to get to the fourth quarter in a minute, but first let's go through the field. So, Camila Cardoza, I want to know what Sabrina's friend Satu Sabali said, because Brazil, man. Well, listen, it wasn't just that game against Germany. They ain't win none of their games in the qualifiers. So, but I want the tea. I want all the tea. I'm very curious. But Camila Cardozo doing all right. She's doing all right with South Carolina, but Brazil will not be in the field of 12. This is Alpha Order, Australia, Belgium, who is coming for the USA. I know I would. Canada, who slinked in. I'm a little bit worried about Canada. We got to talk about that when we get closer to the summer. China. So that's a New York Liberty connection, at least for now. Y'all already know how I personally feel about Han, but we're not going to go into that. Marine Johannes and company, Gabby Williams and company with Team France. Germany. With Team Germany, we've got Sabali, who I just mentioned. Japan, sleeper. I think
always
sleeping on Japan. People be sleeping on Japan in all sports, but I also got my hockey mind on. But anyway, Nigeria, Puerto Rico, wepa, let's go. Serbia, España, aka Spain, and of course the United states. So it's a pretty solid field, man. It's a solid field. Black Rosie Media, we are going to get through this series, which we're doing, which is a season in review. We still have a lot of people to talk about, like Kayla Thornton, who we mentioned. We've got to talk about Maureen Johannes, but we've kind of been mentioning her a lot. Well, we're going to get through this and then get you ready for the Summer Olympics. But okay, I want to get into a few things. Brian, I'm going to come to you because Damien has been He's been peppering the comments. And I'm not even mad because I have questions. Tell me what's going on with the Liberty not making, I'm going to add a little parenthesis, significant moves. What's going on, Brian? Let us know.
It's kind of like, I was wondering about that, but then I saw a tweet from her Hoop Stats over the weekend that basically mentioned that since Stewie scored, like her salary is essentially like a max contract, but it's not officially signed yet. So there's still a lot of like maneuvering and sort of like shuffling sort of chess pieces around to sort of like make everything work. So until they officially put pen to paper on that, and then they decide on a fair number for her so she can move on to this season, I think there's going to be a lot of things in motion. But I think as far as them making moves, I would say from the stuff I've seen of Leo Fibich, she does look very promising. 6'4", can move the court really well. Great 3-point shooter, good size at 6'4". So there's there's that comment from Teresa Fibich. There's another Liberty connection for the German team right there. So it's going to be very interesting to see how she does. It seems like she's a sure bet to make the team. She fits the roles of what they do well. And she's the pick they got from, I believe, Chicago in the Mabry trade from last year. So there's definitely going to be an excitement to sort of see what she does. The point guard they signed, Dojkic, she did well in Seattle before she left to go back to EuroLeague. Now that she's here in the States and with the team, she's going to probably get a more consistent role, because with Seattle, she was starting, and then towards July, the Storm coaching staff had her. They replaced her in the starting five with Sammy at point guard, which didn't work well. So here I think she'd have a more consistent role as far as like being a backup point guard, having those opportunities, and she might have a little bit more playing time, because I think the Liberty are going to try to really sort of like slow Sloot down to make it so she's not playing that much this year compared to last year. So you can sort of like nurse her through so that there could be more opportunity for her in that regard. And I think, to sort of tie it back to Steph at the beginning, I feel like this is going to be a big Niara year. Like last year, going into the year, she hadn't played any basketball since, I want to say, about 2021, or like right around the tournament in 2022. So she was coming in off a year plus of inactivity. So having her back, and she did well in the FIBA competition. She had great numbers in EuroLeague when she played. So it's going to be a great opportunity, I think, for them to sort of see what she can do in an expanded backup role as the main backup big for now, at least. So I think there's going to be a lot of internal sort of like betting on her to see how she's able to take on that expanded role, having another healthy season under her belt, being able to really sort of adjust to the increased responsibility. And I think the experience of going up against really elite competition in EuroLeague and FIBA will really sort of help expand more in her game, give her more sort of like tools to add to her repertoire, and sort of see where she can get better. So I think it's going to be a big bet on her as well, too.
Yeah, I think to that point, I think you made two really great points that, yes, they're kind of collecting training camp contracts, and that some of that at least is because of something actually that we had on the rundown earlier and we didn't get to because I went on like a million tangents. But Misha, I'm going to come to you for this one. So Brian also said that although Stewie has been cored, that's a transaction that the New York Liberty made, that contract has not been finalized and signed. So technically, she's still a free agent, or at least on those free agent targets. Now, the question I have for you, Misha, is there a world in which you believe that Breanna Stewart does not return to the New York Liberty, a la, I don't know, what we're seeing with Elena Deladon, or what we saw with some sign-in trades? What are your thoughts?
No. That's my short answer. I think and again, this transactions, free agency, not my wheelhouse, but I do know Stewie get paid a lot of money, right? She get paid a lot of money.
Yes.
And in your contract negotiations, you're also negotiating on the number, right? So
that's it.
If Stewie, I don't know what's going on in them rooms, but I see a world, and tell me if this is going too far, where Stewie takes less money so they can get another weapon. So they can get somebody else who can bolster that roster, can bolster that bench, and just takes a few more thousand or a few more, whatever the case may be. I can see a world where that's happening, but a world where Stewie is not returning, absolutely not. Insane, nuts.
I love that you mentioned that. And we mentioned Swin Cash again in this house. We stand Swin Cash. So I prayed to the Lord and did not argue with Swin on that note. But anyway, there was a year, the last year that Swin Cash played with the New York Liberty before retiring. She was released from her contract. The New York Liberty made moves and then she was re-signed. So yes, there is a world in which, to your point, and again, remember, Stewie was cored before Nneka made her visit to New York. Now, again, go watch if you're able, and hopefully there's not an issue with the video. I'll double check that. But the Seattle Storm press conference was today. It was early. I think at least some of that had to do with because the Seattle Kraken, who I also cover, they had an afternoon matinee game on President's Day on a random Monday. Cool. Amazing. That's so fantastic for nobody. But anyway, but in that press conference, you hear Nneka saying that, listen, Jewel Lloyd got that juice. We talked about it. We talked about it on the podcast, definitely between Jewel and Skylar. But Jewel, Skylar, and Nneka were obviously having conversations. And we've talked about it on this podcast before. Do I think the New York Liberty would have found a way to make Nneka fit? Absolutely. Who wouldn't?
You have to, yeah.
Who wouldn't? But it's not an easy, it's not an easy fit there. It would have been a lot of maneuvering, including perhaps with not just Stewie's contract, but with Stewie and or JJ, maybe not so much JJ, but definitely Stewie's minutes.
Yeah.
And we talked about it. I don't know that any of those players, you need to have that conversation with them. I think you let them cook for as many minutes as they want to give you. So, yeah. And so Aloysius agreeing with you there, could definitely see Stewie maybe deferring money. And especially now making room on the bench. We know, Brian, that that's a priority for the New York Liberty. And the only thing now is, are they a little bit late to the game? We have a lot of big stars that are already placed. Natasha Cloud, someone that we talked about much to Misha's chagrin and disappointment. But I mean, that's a guard that could help you. And you know what? Courtney Vandersloot might be a point guard that you can ask and might be ready to come off the bench. And the Liberty did that at points. But I don't know what we're looking like in the free agent market for a guard. That's going to be a little bit of a problem. We've talked about Kayla Thornton, but I think also maybe you want a Kayla Thornton, but on the offensive side, right? And in her position, or someone who can play kind of, I guess a 2 through a 4 realistically. I mean, 5 is really stretching that position list thing, but gives you options at least between 2 and 4, but gives you those options offensively. Not that Thornton threw down offensively in some games and had to come up big. It's not that Thornton doesn't have it, but I think you definitely want to have Thornton thrive defensively for this New York Liberty squad. So, I mean, I don't know. We have a lot of questions. This is interesting. Yes, I've seen Miles put this out. Jace Shelton. First of all, Ohio State is mean, y'all. There's some mean teams in college, women college basketball right now. Ohio State, Colorado,
crazy.
Oregon State. I mean, there's some mean teams out here. Excuse me. My take, Brian, is that it's going to be a little bit difficult for the New York Liberty to get highest value and the most like locked in solid fit through the draft this year because of where they're likely, unless they make some moves, gonna pick. But what's your take on the Liberty and potential draft stock to fill shoes and to fill holes for 2024?
Well, the Liberty do a really good job of slashing international talent. One player that really pops up a lot is Marine. I forget, it's Fato Marine F. I like to call her. She's in Paris. She's a great point guard, backup point guard. Like she'd fit well here. Raquel Carreras, another person overseas that would fit well if and when she does decide to come over. And I know I'm forgetting her name off the top of my head, but like their second round pick last year from USC signed a training camp contract, so she's going to be coming in. So the Liberty, they've really done a good job. Like they've hit with the big pieces, but they've also done a lot of stealth work on the margins and really sort of making sure that they have a steady reservoir of talent. So you have the big stars, but you have a lot of like support players underneath to really keep the operation upright. So I think for Jonathan Kolb and company, it's just a matter of seeing how the training camp looks. If there's more room, like I think they have the 11th pick this year in the draft, so they'll definitely sort of see what they can make at the position they're in, and then just sort of build off it from there.
Damien, now these are some interesting names. I mean, Emma Mieseman.
That's the one I like the most on that list. Emma Mieseman is cold, y'all, from firsthand experience, because when DC signed her, I was like, who the heck is Emma Mieseman? I soon found out who Emma Mieseman was. She is, when I tell y'all, when they were building up winning that championship,
correct?
EDD and Emma Mieseman was right here.
For me, I was taking Mieseman all day.
You know what? You might be right, because she was a guaranteed
in that series. That series, I was taking Mieseman all day.
She went off. So her as an addition to the New York Liberty
in particular, but anyway, go ahead.
Yeah. I know, I feel you. Her in particular as an addition, I think what we talk about a lot with the Liberty players is how egoless they seem, like how it doesn't matter how Sandy wants to use them. I think Emma Mieseman fits into that equation in that way perfectly. Never once, and I was covering the team during that time. Never once did I see a Emma Mieseman temper tantrum, an Emma Mieseman, missing high five, Emma Mieseman getting too high, getting too low. She just like this.
I like that.
She just like this. And I think that would fit perfectly with the Liberty. So
perfect with the Liberty. The only little hiccup here is that Mieseman might not be in the WNBA in 2024 with Team Belgium. And again, Team Belgium, don't sleep on them. And they got an axe to grind now with Kelsey Plum's heel. So I'm just saying, Tiana Hawkins is another interesting one. Tiana Hawkins, I feel like people not putting enough respect on how she's changed the game, which came somewhat with her physique. Mm-hmm. And Tiana Hawkins was the sole survivor for Washington. Everyone else
on the beach. She was on the beach with SOS spelled out on the beach. It was just her.
The only one that could stay healthy. So, I mean, the Liberty needs some of that. I don't know what kind of ginkgo biloba, like what's she taking, but we need that.
I need that daily vitamin.
Some joint pills. I don't know what's going on. Calcium, magnesium, all the things. I like that. Imani McGee, I could see it. I'm not as high on it in theory, at least on paper at this particular point in time. I think there's just a little bit more absence from the W than I personally think the Liberty would entertain. That being said, it goes back to what Brian said, and finding especially international talent. I think that Athletes Unlimited also brings a different complexion into where you can find talent, which is going to start up soon. Gonna start up real soon, like in a couple of weeks here, end of February. So that's really, really interesting. Folks are asking for a free agent podcast. And you know what? Now that we're starting to see a little bit of the moves and Stewie's still not officially official, we might need to dive into this because the players that we have left to talk about, Marine Johannes, we already know what the deal is there. KT, I think, is worth going into. I still have JJ on the list, but I feel like, did we not do a deep dive? I feel like we kind of covered JJ, even if it wasn't her episode. I feel like because everything was running through JJ. So we might be able to get that going, fam. But the other thing that is clear that we got to talk about is Caitlin Clark, not just also regarding Cheryl Swoops, but we know we're getting into conference tournaments. Most teams have, I'd say at most 5 regular season games, and that's really only a cluster of teams that have about 5 games. We're really like in that 4 or 5 game range before we get to conference play, which then of course sets us up for the NCAA tournament. And I think it's going to be worth having that conversation soon. So we got a lot. We got she didn't
so
get
much.
off the island.
That was wild, Aloysius. Why would you?
Oh gosh, listen. Yeah, so we've got a lot to talk about. Yeah, I think this is the question. And this is a question that we're gonna have to, this like could be a whole segment for us right before training camp, because I think it's going to be really interesting. And I mean, Seattle is coming, and I like their philosophy. I had a whole thread on Black Rosie Media about trying to get information from Phoenix. That's a whole nother situation. But in that process, I was also reaching out to Seattle. And although I didn't get those comments, the story just went in a different direction. It was going to be published in CBS Sports. I have a lot of insight on what Seattle wanted and what their mindset was going into the lottery draft day. And a lot of that has played out in a big way. So not a Seattle Storm podcast, but we might need to get into it because that I think is just fascinating. And people are starting to follow the trend of what Bad Boy Bill did in Las Vegas, of what we see Jonathan Kolb doing in New York. And again, what we heard from NECA and from Skylar Diggins-Smith is the teams that are not only investing as far as money into facilities, but are also investing in people. And that's where I think Sandy Brondello is your, not to make it about Las Vegas, she's your ace in the hole. That to me could be a really interesting conversation. And I think it's a different take on what I personally believe is a tired super team narrative, but really talking about what these front offices are doing. We are at an era of the WNBA where we're really looking at what the front office is doing and the packages that they're able to spin for players, knowing that it's the wild, wild west. Boom, boom. Of free agency for the W right now. So we got a lot. I hope y'all are enjoying the off season as much as we are. We're definitely going to lean into the crossover when it comes to women's college basketball. But all right, we're going to go around the horn. Let's start with Brian. Where can folks find you? And is there anything that you have coming down the pike that you want people to look out for?
I am on the Muskie app at BusyXB. You can find me there. Same on Instagram. As far as assignments go, kind of a bit of a down period. Now that Sabrina is done with the All-Star break, it's just just waiting around, see if there's anything happening in the neighborhoods and communities. If so, I'll be on it. And then from there, we'll pick back up in March and April. Then the season's going to be here before we know it.
I love it. I love that you're always, covering the community aspect of what the Liberty and the W do, which is dope. All right, Nisha, you are up. Where can folks find you? And what do you have coming down the pike that people can hop on board with?
You can find me on Twitter and Instagram. I'm getting more active on Instagram. I'm very proud of myself. I'm usually not. At Mish the Journalist. That's where I dump all my most innermost thoughts and feelings. No, I won't be spamming y'all. But then you can also watch and hear me on the broadcast for women's basketball at William and Mary this Friday at 7 p.m. They will be matching up with Elon, and then Sunday they'll be matching up.
Let's go.
Yeah, I figured you would like that. Elon coming into town. They about to eat it. No, let me stop.
I mean, listen.
Oh, and if anybody,
few down years. All right.
I'm never underestimating them though. And then if you guys are fans of podcasts, you need something to listen to on the drive into work, Your Mama's Kitchen. We're putting out episodes currently. Season 1 is coming to a close soon, but we've got one with Leslie Jones that's on the feed right now. Tayari Jones as well. A bunch of cool names you can learn about the kitchens they grew up in and their family life and childhoods and all that good stuff. So
I love it.
Check that out too.
All right. And y'all can find me, of course, at Black Rosie Media and at Erica_L_Ayala. I'm in Tulsa right now, but I'm heading to the East Coast because I'm going to be doing that hockey. I will be in Long Island hosting a women's Black women in hockey history panel with some former players for the Metropolitan Riveters and the New York Riveters from the league that preceded the PWHL. So that will be happening on Wednesday. Damien, your question. Thursday is a busy day for all of us, so we will not be having a podcast this week, Thursday. We wanted to get this podcast in this week, though, before all of us had to, go our separate ways. But so likely we will not have a podcast until not next week, but the week after. But make sure that you are subscribed to Black Rosie Media on YouTube in particular, because then you can sign up to get notifications, and anytime we schedule a live stream, you'll have that. But before our next live stream, I will likely do a short video and probably a story up on Black Rosie Media talking about the Seattle Storm and their process prior to the draft lottery and how that's come to fruition through free agency, because again, they just had their press conference with NECA and Skylar. So that's where you can find all of us, but we appreciate y'all's questions, and you have given us a lot of topics that we're going to have to talk about in the coming weeks. And as we march closer to March Madness, we might have to get on a cadence that's not every other week. We are quickly approaching kind of like that peak season of women's basketball, and I'm here for it. But we appreciate y'all. Thank you for tuning in. If you're not already subscribed, go ahead and subscribe to Black Rosie Media. We're almost at 1,000 followers, which would get us to monetization, which means that we can continue investing into this podcast and other things. But for Brian Florentin and Amisha Jones, this is Erica L. Ayala. Be kind to yourselves, be kind to one another, and we will catch you on the next live stream. Peace out, everybody. Thank you, Damien. Thank you, Aloysius, JC. We had Teresa in the house. Thank you. Rye came through. We appreciate you all. Have a great night, everyone. Be safe.